The Bayangi curse, a ghost trapped in a coconut. They say grief does strange things to a person. For me, it led to the unearthing of a secret that never should have seen the light of day. When my father passed away in 2018, I didn't cry at the funeral. Not because I didn't love him, God knows I did, but because something inside me knew that his story wasn't finished. My name is Neil Joshi. I'm 35, born and raised in Mumbai, a software architect by trade, and a firm believer in reason, logic, and data. That is, until I met what lives in the trunk. It started with a letter. 3 days after the cremation, I was going through my father's study, sorting his files and books. He was meticulous, labeled everything, kept his documents in chronological order. That's when I found it, an envelope marked with my name, tucked inside the drawer of his old teakwood desk. The handwriting was unmistakably his. Inside, a single sheet of yellowed paper, folded twice. The message was brief. The trunk buried beneath the east wall, do not open it. No matter what anyone tells you. There was no signature, no explanation. Just that warning. A part of me wanted to laugh. My father, the most rational man I knew, giving me a cryptic message like something out of a bad horror novel. But another part, the part that remembered the stories whispered in the corners of family gatherings, about our ancestral home in Dapuli, felt a chill crawl up my spine. 3 months later, I took a week off and drove to the old bungalow in Dapuli. It had stood vacant since my grandparents passed. The roof was beginning to sag, the paint peeled like sunburnt skin, and vines had claimed most of the outer wall. The air smelled like wet earth and forgotten memories. The caretaker, Shankar, greeted me with a wary smile. I didn't tell him about the letter. Just that I wanted to renovate the place, maybe rent it out. Anything specific, sir? He asked. Yeah, I said, trying to sound casual. I need some bricks removed from the eastern wall of the kitchen. There might be something buried there. He blinked. Something buried, sir. Just an old trunk, I think. My dad mentioned it. That evening, as the monsoon clouds thickened over the Arabian Sea, we began the dig. The kitchen was coated in grime and silence. Every brick pulled out revealed more of the damp soil behind it. An hour in, we struck wood. It was a chest, old, rotting at the edges, with iron hinges and rusted chains looped around it. Strange symbols were carved into the lid, some filled with dried red wax. Shankar stepped back the moment he saw it. This is not good, sir, he muttered, backing away. This looks like something wrong. I told him I'd take it from here and dismissed him for the night. Alone in the flickering glow of a flashlight, I cut the chain and peeled off the wax. The trunk creaked open like a sigh from something ancient. Inside, wrapped in a crimson cloth, was a small clay idol of a child, its eyes shut, its mouth slightly open. Next to it sat a brass bowl containing dried-up onion fritters. That's it. No treasure. No diary. Just a creepy doll and stale snacks. I left it open and went to bed on the old cot in the hallway. But I couldn't sleep. There was a pressure in the air. Like something watching. Around midnight, I heard it. Whispers. Faint, almost like whine through a crack, but rhythmic. Intentional. I'm hungry. I sat up, heart hammering. The house was silent otherwise. No wind, no rain. Just that whisper. I stayed up all night, flashlight in one hand, a kitchen knife in the other. In the morning, I went back to the trunk. The bowl was empty. I hadn't touched it. I'm sure of it. But the dried fritters were gone. And the idol was no longer facing the way I left it. It had turned. Just slightly. But enough. I should have left. I should have sealed it back and buried it again. But curiosity, that old, seductive voice, won. That night, I fried some fresh onion bhajiyas. I placed them in the bowl and left it beside the idol. The whispers stopped. The next day, I got an email from a client I hadn't spoken to in over a year. A contract worth twice my current income. Then, my uncle in Pune called to inform me that he was transferring ancestral property to my name. Said he'd been meaning to do it for years. Over the next 3 months, I got a promotion, won a random online contest, and closed 2 major investments. Everything I touched turned to gold. But every new moon, the whispers returned. Feed me, or I take. And so I fed it. Onion fritters, sweets, milk, whatever came to mind. The smell of food would disappear by morning. The idol's mouth, it looked wider. As if it had smiled. I began researching. Old books. Forums. Even visited a local priest. The moment I mentioned a clay idol and a brass bowl, he paled. Bayangi, he whispered. You fed it. That's how it binds. Bayangi. A spirit. Bound through ritual. It brings fortune to its keeper, but at a cost. It steals from others. Not just objects, luck, health, happiness. I asked how to break it. He shook his head. You don't. Unless, you release it. But after 7 years. And no one ever does. I didn't believe him. But the unease grew. People around me began suffering. A friend's startup collapsed. My neighbor's child developed a strange illness. My cousin lost his job, then his apartment. One day, I skipped the offering. Just to see. That night, I woke up choking. The room reeked of burnt oil. The trunk was open. The idol had moved, outside the trunk, sitting at the edge of my bed. I screamed. I ran. I returned in the morning. Everything was back in place. Idol in the trunk. Bowl clean. I made double the offering that night. Year 5, I tried to get rid of it. Took the idol to the sea. Threw it in. The next morning, the trunk was back in my apartment. Wet. Sand on the floor. The idol inside. Staring. Now, it's year 6. I've stopped questioning. I make the offerings. I whisper apologies. I give thanks for my blessings. But I know. I know the 7th year is coming. And I also know. I won't have the will to let it go. Because Bayangi, it feeds. But it also gives. And I'm addicted. So I keep feeding it. Until the day it decides it's full. And takes me instead. It's the 7th year now. I expected something final, a storm, a scream, a last whisper. Instead, it was quiet. The food remained untouched. The idol unmoved. And for the first time, I dared to hope. I buried the idol under the old mango tree, burned the trunk in the courtyard, and walked away. For a time, everything was still. Peaceful, even. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd done what my father couldn't. But years later, the blessings began to fade. The clients stopped calling. The savings ran dry. My body weakened. My friends disappeared one by one. My once glorious life collapsed like a house of cards. Now, I sit in a dim room that leaks when it rains. I sleep on the floor. Eat when I can. My name has faded from the world. And in the silence, I hear it. A whisper. Not outside. But inside me. Waiting.